Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Frere, your professor. Good morning, class. Today we will discuss the basic types of economic system. But before that, we have to define again what economic system is. In our previous video, we defined economic system as an organization and methods used by countries or by societies in determining what goods and services they are going to produce, how these goods and services are produced, and for whom they are being produced. Okay? Now, let's proceed with the three basic types of economic systems. One is the traditional economy. Second is the command economy, and the third is the market economy. Now, what is a traditional economy? By the word itself, when we say traditional, maybe something will crop up into your mind. It is something that is of the old ways or the old way of doing things. So as defined by authors, traditional economy is a system that answers the what, the how, and for whom questions in economic production the way they always have been answered, the way they always have been done. So it is the old way of doing things, of producing goods and service, of determining what goods and services are to be produced and for whom these are being produced. Of course, there are some advantage of using the traditional economy. One is there is little friction among the members of the society because probably there are little things to be argued, to be disputed, since they are doing what they have been doing for a long time. However, there are also some disadvantages that they have to consider. One of which is that it restricts individual initiative. So meaning people are being restricted of initiating new ways of producing goods or service because they are being confined to using the traditional way. And another disadvantage is, of course, it's very obvious, lack of advanced goods, lack of new technology, and of course, lack of economic growth. The second is the command economy. So what is this command economy? It is actually a system that answers the what, the how, and the for whom questions in economic production by the central authority. So meaning there is a central authority that commands what goods are to be produced, how these are to be produced, and for whom these are being produced. So in short, the structure of a command economy is in a form of an economic pyramid, where at the apex of the pyramid is the supreme planning agency or the central planning agency, and below it are the specialized planning agencies. Then under the planning agencies are the producing units, or the owners of production, particularly those which are being designated by the government And of course, at the bottom are the consuming units that pertains to the people who consume these goods and service. There are also some strengths or advantages of this command economy. One is, if they wish to have some economic change, it can occur very quickly because the central planning agency can decide in a very short period of time. And of course, social welfare can be enhanced since the primary purpose is for the consuming units to satisfy their needs and wants by the producing units. On the other hand, this command economy has its own weaknesses also. One is, decision makers may have that power to be absolutely wrong. It does not necessarily mean that if they are the central planning agency, what the decisions that they make there is absolutely right. There might be chances where they can be wrong also. And of course, the quality and the variety of goods suffers since it's the producing unit that determines, with the advice of the planning agencies and of course the supreme planning agency, they are the one who determines what goods are to be produced and the quality, the variety of those goods are predetermined by the central planning agencies. And the third one is the market economy. So what is a market economy? By the word itself, when I say market, authors have defined it as any place where buyers and sellers meet. So, as an economic system, market economy is that answers the what, the how, and the for whom questions using prices, which is also being determined by the interaction of the forces of the demand and supply. So you are all familiar with the interaction of these forces, that of the supply and that of the demand. Usually, this interaction of supply and demand determines the price of the goods sold in the market. Now, I guess you are familiar with Adam Smith. Being the father of modern economics, he believed that a free market economy acted like an invisible hand. Now let's define what an invisible hand is. This is actually a phrase that expresses the belief that the best interests of a society are served when individual consumers and producers compete to achieve their own private interest. And this invisible hand usually appears in societies where market economy is being practiced. This invisible hand serves as the force that triggers both consumers and producers to compete in achieving their own interest. And this interest for consumers is the maximization of the income that they have in buying a product, while producers is more on the maximization of the profit that they earn out of those products. So market economy has also its own advantage. It provides a wide variety of goods and services that buyers and sellers exchange at the lowest price. So in this case, buyers have their choice. Buyers have a say the price of the product. So us sellers has that capacity also to decide as to how much that they're going to exchange their products. There are also some criticisms of market economy. First is the lack of competition. In the presence of few owners of production, there exists lack of competition because majority of the people are consumer oriented. Second is the lack of public goods. Usually, products sold in the market are private goods determined by private producers. And the third one is income inequality. Those who owns production earns more compared to those who buys their products. Since countries cannot just concentrate on having a traditional, a command, or a market economy, so the concept of mixed economy came into existence. This is an economic system that answers the what, the how, and for whom questions through a mixture of the traditional, the command, and the market systems. There are countries that practices a mixture of the traditional and market system. There are also those that uses the mixture of the traditional and the command system, and or the mixture of the three systems. Now let's have the concept of capitalism. This is an economic system also characterized by private ownership of resources and markets, meaning the production of goods and services are in the hands of private individuals or capitalists, so as the markets of these products and services. As a result, the concept of consumer sovereignty existed also. This is the freedom of consumers to cast their dollar votes, to buy or not to buy at prices determined in competitive markets. So being consumer, we have that freedom. We have that choice whether to buy or not to buy those products at a price determined in the market. In a sense, it is our choice. We call it consumer sovereignty. Another concept is the concept of communism. This is a stateless, a classless economic system in which all the factors of production are owned by the workers, and the people share in the production according to their needs. So, when we say factors of production, this includes land, labor, capital, and enterprises. Entrepreneur. So these four factors of production are owned by the people themselves or the workers themselves, and these people, the same people, share in the production according to their needs, according to their capacities. So that is in a communist economy. And of course, it was Karl Marx who introduced this concept known as the father of communism, and he criticized capitalism. and he advanced communism. Another is socialism. This is also an economic system characterized by the government ownership of resources and centralized decision making. So in this case, the government owns the resources and the decision making is centralized by the government and its economic agencies. Here are some characteristics of socialism. One is public ownership of production, but planning is centralized by the economic planners. Its strengths includes equitable distribution of income, rapid growth is a possibility, and no unemployment. However, it has also some weaknesses, such as the occurrence of inefficiencies and the absence of entrepreneurship, and growth might stifle. So these are some suggested advantages or strengths and weaknesses in a socialist economy. If you have questions, you can post your questions in the Google Classroom, or you can send it through my corporate mail. And for your quizzes, I will be posting it also in the Google Classroom. So that would be all for this morning. Thank you. See you next session.